Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gee Whiz Weekends. I'm Emerald Fox.
I'm Lynette Zang.
Each week I'm going to be polling what's trending on social media regarding the current economy and asking Lynette for her opinions and any invaluable insights she can share on that.
I'll do my best.
At the end of our show, make sure to drop your comments and questions down below so that we can pick one of your questions to answer at the end of this. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive right in. This week's post is from CNBC. It mentions Costco selling as much as 200 million in gold bars monthly, Wells Fargo estimates. And again, in fact, in the caption, it goes on to evaluate that the sales are so brisk that analysts at Wells Fargo expect revenue may now be running at 100 million to 200 million a month. A rapid acceleration since bullion hit the warehouse club late in the summer of 2023. And I know you recently did a live Q&A discussion on the trend of these real retailers such as Costco, Amazon, and Walmart selling gold, which has definitely increased public awareness of investing in precious metals. With Costco, for instance, selling 1 ounce gold bars, many people have found that it's more convenient to purchase gold while shopping around for other items. Now, as a millennial myself and a Costco fan, an avid Costco shopper, what would you say to our viewers who, find it, more convenient? What's the issue? What's the holdup for buying from those types of realtors? What's the difference in comparison to purchasing from a reputable precious metals dealer? What are any risks or limitations that might be involved with that?
Well, for one thing, there's gold and then there's gold. So all you can buy from these retailers, which is, and I have to say that this trend thrills the heck out of me.
Absolutely.
Because it is an indication of that growing public awareness, especially in younger people.
Right.
So whether it's here, and that's something that's happening all over the world, in China, in South Korea, as well as America and other places too. I'm going to do a little more research, okay? So the good of it is the public awareness, and it's an indication that people are losing confidence and going to safety, right? Now, there are limitations on how much you can buy, and you're also not talking to an expert so that you can put your best interest first, and you're making sure that what you're doing actually supports your goals. So when you're working with a reputable dealer like Zang Enterprises, which we are now open for business, but when you're working with that, we're going to help you define your goals first so that it's always the right tool for the job, right?
Exactly.
And is bullion going to be the right tool for the job? Well, it's really designed, it kind of straddles both worlds because it is guided by the spot market, which is admittedly manipulated, right? And that's also the kind of gold that if a government chooses to do an overt confiscation, that's what they're taking. Right.
And that's what they're selling at Costco and these other retailers. It's all that bullion, gold and silver.
Right, because that's easy peasy, right? But you have to know there's a whole strategy around it. It isn't just buying gold and going, okay, I'm good, or buying silver and going, okay, I'm good.
We're settled, right?
Exactly. You really have to define what you're trying to accomplish, and they don't have a buyback policy. They're working with third-party vendors, right? But there's no connection, there's no community connection so that you know when it's time to buy, when it's time to sell, the kind of gold that supports this goal or that goal or the other. And so I would say that that's the biggest liability is in that lack of somebody of knowledge that can teach you and help you understand it. You're going to have to understand it all on your own, and most people don't.
Right. And none of those sales associates there at Costco or any customer service person you speak to on Amazon or anyone that you walk into Walmart will know anything about. So that's where, the first step I would say is to call a reputable dealer.
Absolutely.
and get that information. Those strategy specialists that we have here are definitely, they know their stuff. They're sitting with you, they're training, they're learning, what is good for each section of the strategy.
Right. And the strategy is built on layers. What they're selling at these other places is just one layer, right? That's it. And as long as they don't do an overt confiscation, understand, there are so many different names for confiscation. They just don't want to say confiscation. You look at the purchasing power chart, whenever you were born, you can go to the Federal Reserve Education Department, pull up in the search bar, just put purchasing power of the consumer dollar, put your birth date in that year, and you will see how much you have been robbed since that period of time. So that's one form of confiscation. Price manipulation to keep you away from physical gold and silver is another form of confiscation, right? As well as the manipulation part. So there are all different ways that a government, inflation, taxation, can confiscate your wealth without you realizing it. You need to wake up.
Right.
You need to smell the coffee. Have you really seen anything? I'm sorry. I really wish this wasn't true, but have you really seen anything that the government or the central bankers have done that puts your best interest first? No.
Right, and talking about the trending of, gold being sold all over, and the price of gold rising. I mean, you always say a rising price in gold is, a sign of, the currency devaluation.
Right, failing currency.
Failing currency.
No, that's good.
I'm like, what was that tidbit in there? But yeah, I mean, you always say that, and with the price going up currently, I mean, I think it's at 24 something right now, 2,400 something.
Right. Well, it's also interesting because when you're talking about the spot gold price, right? Well, you just referred to it as the gold price.
Oh.
That's the way they position it,
right.
Gold and silver. And when you're listening to the talking heads, they refer to it as gold and silver. That's not. That's a spot contract.
Paper contract, right.
Exactly. Okay. It is cheap and easy to manipulate that. The physical market is a completely different bird and with the collectibles, that is a physical only market. And I'm actually preparing something, maybe it's not already, I don't know when this is going to air, but on the difference between bullion, right? And the collectibles.
Oh, awesome.
Exactly.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, because we believe in educated choices. I'll give you I give you all the links to all my research. If you go out there and you do this research and you have a different opinion, I'm not going to sit here and say that my opinion is more valid than yours.
Right.
A hopium opinion, however, versus an educated opinion, that's a little different. But I love, love, love the fact that the public is waking up and that the younger public is waking up. Because I'm old, right? I'm going to be 70 in a few months. And so, I think I'm going to be around another 30 years. But that's at the end. My grandkids are 9 and 11 and I think 15 and 18. Right? They've got a much longer life. And so the battle really is to use gold and silver to maintain your purchasing power, to hold your wealth intact. But because, as you pointed out, a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency, and therefore, even at 2,400, at 10,000, it's still severely undervalued, so is silver, to its fundamental value. Where do you want the lion's share of your wealth? In an overvalued instrument that's valued in dollars, which are going to zero, or in an undervalued global asset that is in a long-term, exactly. So the opportunities that there are, and this is what, everybody talks about doom and gloom, including me, because I've got to tell you what's going on. But the reality is every single crisis presents opportunities for those that are at the right place, at the right time, with the right asset, understanding what those patterns look like. That's why I talk about patterns all the time. Because if you understand what all these patterns look like, and you're in the right place at the right time with the right asset, well, guess what? Not only can you survive this thing, but you can come out the other side of it in a much better position than you were going in.
And you do have a chart on that. I'd love to show that right here where you're talking about the phases, because you have a really great chart that shows the accumulation, the awareness, and the panic stage. And I'd really love to include that here.
Yeah, because you have to understand where we are in the trend cycle, or you're blind.
Right.
And honestly, had I not stumbled across non-dollar denominated bonds in the 80s, and therefore started studying currencies, I wouldn't know any more than anybody else.
Wow.
It's being in the right place at the right time and going, oh, okay, well, there was an opportunity that I saw, but then having to study currencies, because non-dollar denominated bonds are just bonds that are issued in currencies other than dollars, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do that, then you have to understand what's going on in that currency. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's where I started to study. But then as you really get into it, you start to see a lot of things. For example, how old are you?
32.
Okay. And I'm almost 70. Mm-hmm. If somebody's looking at you, they aren't going to think, oh, she's almost 70, right? Mm-hmm. Just like if they're looking at me, it would be nice if you thought this, but you probably
do think this. You do.
No, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, she's almost going to be 33, right? So that's true not just with humans, that's true with absolutely everything. Everything has a life cycle. Take a strawberry. You got a strawberry plant, and then there's a flower, and then there's a small little strawberry, and then there's a beautiful big strawberry. If you don't pick it, eventually that strawberry starts to decay, right? And then those seeds go into the ground, and what do you get? More strawberry plants. Exactly. Well, the same thing is true with currencies and currency life cycles.
That's a great analogy.
Exactly. And the opportunity, that's what I want everybody to understand. People will say, oh, you just want to sell gold. What do you think? You think I want you to put your money into fiat money products that are going away? No, I don't. I want you to become your own central banker, accumulate. Right now, it is time to just accumulate as quickly as you possibly can, because I don't really know when the bottom's going to fall out, right? Nobody does. So you get prepared. But then you keep watching, and you hear me talk about the cup formation all the time, right? That is, and I believe silver is concluding its cup formation. Gold already did a while ago, but silver has yet to conclude it. It's last time I looked, it was like $32 an ounce, something like that.
34 last time I looked.
Okay, so yep, it's on a run. It'll conclude the cup when it breaks above 50.
Okay.
All right. So, but it could bump its head and it could bounce there. It doesn't matter. It's actually the fundamental value of an ounce of silver is somewhere around $2,000. So at $50, at $100, at $500, at $10, right? It's still, that's the point. But it won't remain undervalued. And that's the other point. Right?
So to get on it quick when you have that opportunity, that window.
Exactly. And understanding, thank you, Uncle Al. I mean, I learned so much from him. But understanding the patterns of how hard assets and sound money work goes like this. Undervaluation to fair valuation to overvaluation to fair valuation to undervaluation. In a constant loop, because physical gold and silver are universally used across every sector of the global market. So it doesn't go to zero because it's got the broadest base of function and the broadest base of demand. So you're buying it down here when it's undervalued. And you have to understand the true fundamental value of any asset or any instrument, because that, frankly, is the only way for you to truly know if something is undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued.
Right.
Therefore, do I want to buy it? Do I want to hold it? Do I want to liquidate it? So going back to that cup formation, what that tells you is that the smart money has noticed the bargain and is quietly accumulating, right? Is quietly accumulating. That's why it looks like a cup. And it's not smooth. It's gonna bounce. But overall, you can see that cup formation. When it breaks out, like gold has, right? Then it's still going up.
Right.
But again, if gold is worth 41 grand an ounce, at 2,500, at 10,000, at 20,
it's a bargain.
A bargain. Central bankers are accumulating it.
Right.
Who knows more about the monetary system than they do? They know what they're doing, don't they? Well, they don't really know what they're doing, but they do know what they're doing to the currency.
Right. Wow.
Did that answer?
Yes, it did. Thank you. And this is why I bring up these trending topics, because, you know, we're all about the education. And if I'm seeing these things getting posted on Twitter or Instagram, you know, we want to make sure we bring those to you, because you can clarify for our younger generation or for our older viewers as well what that means, you know, like these stages. Like, we're not in the panic stage yet, but once we do, you're going to want to have had that.
Exactly.
And you just clarified that for us. So thank you. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing.
There is no fever like gold fever. We have been taught to ignore it, right? Oh no, it's an old relic. It's this. Well, first of all, why are central bankers accumulating it like crazy? Because it's not such an old relic.
Right.
But they don't want you to hold your wealth. If you keep all of your wealth in intangible assets or instruments, it's hard for me to call them assets, honestly, but instruments, then it's easier to rob you. And who are you going to complain to? You buy stock at 100, it goes to 0. Booty, hooty, Rudy, Manooty. Who are you going to complain to?
Right.
Right? But with real money, sound money, this is why our work is really so important. And I'm talking about building communities. Yes, we want to democratize people owning gold and silver. And that's why our minimum is 1 ounce. So you want to buy 1 ounce of silver? No problem.
Right.
Right? We're going to accommodate you because we want everybody to own some physical gold and silver. And we have other things that are coming on board that we can't really talk about yet. But it's very exciting that we can talk about because we really need to be our own advocates. And the sound money movement is critically important. And I'll tell you something else. That's, aside from all of the public buying gold and silver, which is phenomenal, what's also phenomenal is the change at the federal government level around marijuana, where it's been changed as I think from don't hold me to this, but I think it's either a class 1 drug or was a class 3 drug, something like that. But it's basically been or is in the process of being decriminalized.
Right.
Well, how'd that happen? The states, right? Because the states already made that move, and enough of them made a difference at the federal level. So we intend to participate much more heavily in helping states understand money and understand what's happening, and then supporting the sound money movement, because I think that is definitely one of the ways that we can have a voice in what's happening and have an impact in the federal government.
Absolutely.
So I was very excited when I heard that. I'm like, okay, you see, coming together in community, whether it's a state community, individual community, it makes a difference.
Yeah. It's a huge message.
Yes, it is.
Well, moving right along, I, as promised, do have a question from one of our viewers today. His name is Roger, and Roger asks, well, he says, I'm watching a Lynette video from 2018.
Oh,
You talk about big banks being overinvested and overexposed in CLOs.
Oh, yeah, collateralized loan obligations.
Thank
That's
you
what
for
CLOs
clarifying.
are.
Thus making these banks vulnerable. However, the federal government has designated 8 big banks as being officially too big to fail and has promised to bail them out no matter what. So wouldn't this artificial but powerful propping up of these banks postpone the day of great reckoning more or less indefinitely? And perhaps this is why we're not seeing the great failure that our own economic theories otherwise would insist must happen. Why would this scheme by the powers that be indeed not work forever?
That's an awesome question. I love that. And you can go back and you can actually see in 2008, as the crisis was unfolding, the federal government injected $800 billion into the system. And I mean, everybody was like, rah, going crazy about that. But was it inflationary and stimulatory? Sure, they reflated the markets. But then they had several sessions of QE, so that's the free money.
Quantitative easing.
Yep, thank you. Every single time that they did it, they had to do more and more of it. Look at how much they had to do in 2020, and they're not getting the same results. Plus, every time they do it, look at the purchasing power chart. I just did it on that, right? Then it devalued the currency that is already out there, and the inflation became noticeable. So they didn't stave off the crisis. They covered it over. They papered over the problem. But the problems have not gone away. They've just gotten exponentially worse. And I always talk about, the iceberg. All we see is this little tip of the iceberg. The big danger is what we don't see and we won't see until it's too late to do anything about. Indefinitely? Absolutely not. It will remain kind of sort of viable, although there's so much that is eroding, and what's happening in the treasury bond market with the shifting and the volatility. I mean, these are, and more, are all symptoms that what they've done hasn't really worked, hasn't really solved any problem.
Dusted it under the rug, essentially.
And they cannot do it indefinitely because they have to keep doing more and more, and they keep getting less and less result, but more and more inflation. And this thing is held together this much by public confidence. And then what did we just see? We saw consumer sentiment, because now, have you not also read how the consumer's supposed to support all this stuff, right? Okay. So when consumer sentiment declines, they're not shopping as much. They're not supporting all of these inflated prices, because let's face it, it's more important to put food on the table, which is very noticeable for people, than it is to buy a blouse. You can avoid buying a blouse, but you have to eat, right? And so food is a lot more noticeable. And the faster the inflation is, so the quicker the prices rise, the more obvious it is to people, the less confidence that they have in the system and in the money, and the more quickly they will spend the money to get out of it and put it into something that might hold its purchasing power better. So no, they cannot do it indefinitely, period. And there's 4,800 currencies that have attempted the same thing. What they're rushing to do is get the new system in place. And what we're rushing to do is to build a global community that has a peaceful revolution simply by putting your fiat money into sound money, gold and silver, physical, that you physically hold. Because we all know, should we do this together? If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And it really is just that simple.
Wonderful.
Did I get all the nuances in that?
Yes. I believe so. That pretty much covered it. Thank you so much for that great question, Roger. It really,
it was great. Thank you,
It really
Roger.
worked too with what we were discussing. I mean, the trends and the phases that you have. So appreciate it. You guys continue to send in those questions down below in the comments. Make sure to leave those there for us. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell. We've got more wonderful episodes for you down below. So
don't forget, though, we are now open for business.
Sure are.
And you can hit that appointment schedule
scheduling link.
Thank you.
Yep.
She's the ops. She knows this piece better than me. And you can set a time to talk to one of our strategy specialists.
Absolutely.
That we all work together. So it doesn't matter who you're talking to. We are all in on this. So
Absolutely.
Very excited. We are here to be of service.
Yay! We'll see you soon, you guys. We'll see you next week. And until next time, stay safe out there.
Bye.
Now.